Hey, Seven. The link that your teacher's just given you should bring you to this page to access your BandLab project. Most of you will have already signed up. If you haven't, then do it here with your school email. If you have, then skip this and go up here to log in. Okay, when you log in, it'll bring you to this page. You just click continue. You don't need to mess with this at all. And then that should bring you into your classroom. Okay, so your new project is going to be Minimalism Composition Project. You can click Start Assignment, click Teacher's Assignment, it's the one that we are giving you, and it should open up after a little loading. You can press play or hit spacebar to listen to the first cell. And press spacebar to stop. Okay, let's try number 1 in the assignment brief. Turn the cell on the first track into an ostinato by looping or copying it. Okay, so a cell becomes an ostinato if it gets repeated and repeated and repeated. Okay, so there's an easy way to do this in music software called looping. If you click on the cell, you get a couple of options. Okay, so the option in the top right is a kind of circular arrow. You can just click on that and drag it, okay? And that will create just sort of infinite copies of this cell. Let's have a listen. Okay, so you can hear that it's just copying and copying. Another way to do it is to copy it, which is a bit more useful. I'll tell you why later. But if you just press Alt on your keyboard and then you can drag it, and while you're still holding Alt, let go. Do it again. Still holding Alt, let go, and you'll see that a copy of the cell just drops into place. A third way you can do it is to right click on the cell and press copy. Now you can bring this thing here, which is called the playhead, into wherever you want to drop your copy. I'm going to drop it right next to it, and I'm going to right click again and press paste. Okay, so there's 3 ways that you can make your cell into an ostinato that repeats and repeats and repeats. And save your work here, please. Just press save. You don't need to press submit, just press save, and make sure that you're pressing save regularly throughout doing this project. Okay, let's try number 2. Copy your ostinato onto the second track and layer it in an interesting way. Okay, so we could try and select all of these copies. To do that, you could just click and then drag over them. So click and drag over them so that they all get selected. Then press Alt. So Alt, same as before, Alt and drag. Don't let go of Alt until they're in place. And then you can let go of Alt when they are where you want them. At the moment, they're in line with each other, which means that the piano and the marimba are playing at the same time. Let's listen. Okay. What you could do then, what I mean by layer it in an interesting way, is bring the piano in, push it over to the right, and have it come in after the marimba. See what that sounds like. So it's kind of imitating the marimba. You could try that coming in on any of the moment's the second beat. These are lines of the beats. So at the moment I have it coming on the second beat. You could try it on the 3rd beat or even the 4th beat, whatever you prefer. Yep, so it's up to you when your duplicate ostinato comes in relation to your first one. Okay, number 3, compose your own cell using only black notes, which are the darker lines. I'll show you that in a sec. You can also make this cell into an ostinato and then compose another cell on the next track, etc. Okay, so let's just concentrate on the first one. So we're going to the 3rd track here. So each of these is a track. The 3rd track is a xylophone. and I've put a little box or region in here for you. It's an empty one that you can put your own notes into. Okay, so double click on that region. Okay, and it opens up a little thing down here called the MIDI editor. Okay, and all that means is you can actually just write in notes that you want to use. Okay, in order to write in notes into the box here, you can use your pencil. That's a pencil here. Okay, and like I said in the assignment brief, you were only using black notes. Now, you don't need to worry too much about why that is, but the black notes on a keyboard form something called a pentatonic scale, which is a 5-note scale. It's very common in lots of different types of folk music and different types of music, so they're really useful to use just those 5 notes, and you won't get as many kind of clashing notes if you do that. Okay, so please just use the black notes. The way we can recognize the black notes on the keyboard, if you look here, is they're these ones, okay, the black ones, and if you go across to the grid, you'll notice that the black notes are darker than the whiter notes, which are grey, or sort of lighter grey. Okay, so concentrate on only choosing the darker lines here. Okay, as we go up the keyboard, the pitch goes higher. Okay, so I can turn off my assignment brief here and use my scroller over here to go up. For the kind of melodies and the cells at the beginning, we want them to be quite high in pitch. Okay, we don't want to use low pitch notes really yet. I'm going to start here on these black notes just above C5. And the first thing I'm going to do is draw this little red line up here. So if you just draw the line from 1 to 2, okay, drag from 1 to 2 up here, what that does is it repeats and repeats and repeats just this bar so that we can hear it again and again. I'll just show you what that means. Okay, so you can see that it's just repeating and repeating and repeating here. That's useful because when we put in notes, we can hear them with the other parts. So we're trying to create something that sounds good together. Okay, I'm going to pop a note in here. Okay, you can just click it in with your pencil. I'm using a black note here. I can just check that it's definitely a black note. Let's listen to it. Okay, so you can hear that this note has been introduced to the arrangement. Okay, I'm going to put in another one. Okay, I'm going to try another one. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. So what I would say, my suggestion to you when you're composing your cells is don't use too many notes, okay? Maybe 3 or 4 to begin with is absolutely fine. You don't need to put in loads and loads of different notes, and make sure that they all go on the darker lines, okay? When you've completed this one and you're happy with it, you can of course move down to the next track and try the same thing again. If you make a mistake, all you need to do is, let's say I put a note by accident on one of the lighter grey bits, which is the white notes, we're avoiding those. All you need to do is you could click on it and press backspace, okay, just like you would to delete any kind of text normally. Okay, so I've had a go at another cell here, and I've used these notes here. Okay, same kind of range around C5, all black notes, all the darker ones, and I've done that on the strings track in here. Okay, now composing means, of course, that you are making up the music. Okay, so yours aren't going to necessarily look like this. You are doing your own kind of version. It's your decision. Let's listen to what this next cell sounds like. Okay, so if you keep picking black notes, they kind of all sound reasonably okay together. Okay, I'm going to show you the next one now, and the reason that this one is slightly different is because the flute, I'm going to use slightly longer notes. If you play a flute, you can kind of hold on to the note for longer than you can on a xylophone, or this is kind of supposed to be pizzicato strings or plucked strings. So in a flute, we're going to try and use longer notes. We're going to still pick black notes, but I'm going to click in a black note here. Okay, it's actually given me a longer note already, but if it didn't give you a longer note, you can just hover over the note and you get this little kind of arrow going both ways, and you can drag it to being longer. Okay, this note happens to go from the very start of the bar till halfway through the second beat, which is a dotted crotchet actually. And then I'm going to put in another one. And then I can even put in another one. Now, I could have that start wherever I want it. So you can make the notes whatever length you want. And that's good because it means that you can change the rhythm essentially, so the length of the notes. Okay, let's listen to that cell mixed in with everything else. Okay, sounds pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so you've composed some cells using the black notes, and they're in these regions or boxes here. Okay, so we're going to turn these into ostinato. You can press X here on the MIDI editor, get rid of it. We don't need that at the moment. And what you can do is same as before. Okay, you can loop to copy them, or you can Alt and drag them. If you Alt and drag them, it's good because then if you select all of them and Alt and drag, you can leave little gaps. Okay, and sometimes in music you need rests or gaps. Okay, and that'll come in useful when we're doing our arrangement. And do the same here with this one. You could even loop it some of the way, and then you can Alt drag it some of the way as well. Okay, so that gives you different options of how long your ostinato is going to play for. Okay, so number 4, create an arrangement, bringing the different layers in one by one. Okay, so our project now, we've got our original cell, we've got our copy of this cell that we've layered kind of on the 4th beat coming in later. We have our own cells that we've composed, and we've turned those cells into ostinato. And down here we've copied them and left a little break and then copied them. So what we can do now is kind of create a more musical arrangement. At the moment, everything here just comes in at the same time, all on bar 1. But what we want to do is kind of have things come in one by one. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the assignment brief here by clicking that there, so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to just click on the red bit here so that it stops looping. We don't want it to just loop and loop and loop on the first bar. Now we're thinking about how the music kind of develops over time. Okay, so I can take some of these. Let's say we want to start with our first one, okay? And then this is fine, it's coming in a bit later, but I'm going to move this one later to come in just before bar 3, or you could have it come in on bar 3. I'm going to just drag over all of these ones, and I'm going to move them so that they come in. You could try, I mean, it's up to you. You can just put them on a line and see what they sound like. And then the flute part, I'm going to move, and I'm going to put that in somewhere as well. I can change these, obviously. I'm just going to see what this sounds like. Go back to the start, press play. Listen to how each of these parts comes in one by one. So you could move them a little bit to see if it sounds more interesting. Just kind of move them around and see if the kind of different combinations of overlapping layers appeals to you. Okay, if you don't want this to stop here, you can then create the arrangement to maybe continue by lassoing them, just copying them all dragging them down. You could leave a rest if you wanted. You could bring this one down by copying and alt drag. You could change where that comes in if you want. Anything you kind of think sounds good. This is your own arrangement now. This one you could just loop down if you want. These are all just examples of things that you can do. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, I'm kind of happy enough with that. So that's kind of an example of an arrangement where different parts come in one by one. Okay, now that we have a little bit of an arrangement here that goes on for about 12 bars, I am going to make a bass part. Okay, so far all of these melodies, these cells have used quite high-pitched notes. So that's good, that's what you want. But we could have one part that uses low-pitched notes. It's nice to have a kind of bass part. Okay, so on your double bass track, I haven't put in a region for you or a box. So all you need to do is just double-click kind of anywhere on that track, and it will give you a region. Now it's given you a 4-bar region, which is good actually, because we're going to make our bass part a bit longer than our cells. Okay, so this is a bit different. With our bass part, we don't want to have loads of different notes in each bar. I'm actually just going to go for a really simple bass part that just has one note in each bar, and it's a long note. Okay, so like I said, the higher we go on the keyboard here, the higher it is in pitch. Okay, so if we want to go down, you can use your little scroller here down to go down to about, I think maybe around the C2, okay, kind of mark. You can click it, see how. Okay, we can try those. Let's listen to the ones below. Something like that will be fine. Okay, so at the start of this region, at bar 4, right, I'm going to click in a note here. Okay, it's given me a long note immediately, but if it hasn't given you a long note, you can just drag it out like this. Okay, I'm going to click in another long note. You can either use your pencil or you can double click. Both works. Okay, I'm still using black notes, I'm just using lower ones this time. Okay, I'm just going to click in one long note per bar, so you can see each note starts at the start of each bar. And then I'll finish with that. Okay, and so this should hopefully sound nice with the arrangement. You can X out of that, and let's listen to how it sounds coming in like. Okay, so it sounds pretty nice coming in. I can loop it, same as before, so that it happens again. As many times as you like to cover your arrangement, it's up to you. And then hopefully it should copy perfectly. The other thing you can do is if any of these parts sound a bit too loud, you can turn them down individually here. I think my flute's a bit too loud. Let's have another listen. Okay, and that is more or less my piece of minimalist music. I'm going to press save. Make sure that you save your work.